Kon Knueppel is one of the most talented players in the 2025 NBA draft, predominantly known as a shooter, especially as a draft prospect. Kon Knueppel brings floor spacing to any NBA offense, but I think he can actually bring quite a bit more than that as well with his connection and quality of skills and tools, which is what we're going to talk about in today's video. First, we're going to jump into some of the metrics specifically for Kon Knueppel, the traditional and advanced numbers, and what they tell us about Kon Knueppel before we get into real film evaluation and breakdown on his actual tape. It's important you guys know the numbers, and at the end of the year here now, we have the full slate of stats. Kon Knueppel played a little bit over 30 minutes per game this year for the Duke Blue Devils and was extremely productive for them in those minutes, averaging over 14 points per game, 4 rebounds, 2.7 assists, where he was getting active in more areas other than just scoring. Boasted a very strong assist to turnover rate, as you can see under that advanced stat section, with a 15.7% assist rate, which is respectable, not elite, not great, but respectable, specifically for the role and scale that we expect him to fill in the NBA. A 2% steal percentage, which is again respectable. I think the biggest thing to point to here is his efficiency, a 64.2% true shooting percentage as a true freshman playing heavy minutes in a very, very good team, where he was a huge contributor, shot over 56% on twos, shot a great percentage, over 40% on threes, with very high volume, over 5 3-point attempts per game, and of course was extremely effective and efficient as well at the free throw line, where he got to the free throw line quite often, had a, again, respectable free throw rate at about 33.9%, and again, that 3-point rate, over half of his field goal attempts this year came from 3-point land. So if you're looking at him being a player at the next level, obviously the 3-point shooting is going to be very centric to that, very essential in the way that you view him as a draft prospect. But this video is not only going to dive into that shooting, it's also going to talk about the other things, especially offensively, that he can bring to your team, to your roster, if your team does draft him in the lottery this year. So let's start with that 3-point shooting. I hope you guys all do enjoy the video. By the way, if you do, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe as well. And let's get to that shooting, specifically the stationary shooting. And what I really want you guys to focus on throughout this section of the video is Kon Knueppel's footwork. Watch as he prepares to catch and the speed, quickness of his release as he sets himself up to be a successful shooter. I think this one right here is a great example. Kind of has the same routine and rhythm every time he catches and shoots, where he's getting his feet set while the ball is in the air on its way to him. Another example here, beats closeouts with the quickness of his release, obviously exhibits pretty good range, reliability. Here's another great example of the quickness. Tyrese Proctor sets a tiny little flare screen for him and he finds success. This is another great example here, just the quickness of that release. And it's not always about make or miss with 3-point shooters. It's about how they have to be defended and how much attention they really draw on the offensive end of the floor. Of course, Kon Knueppel, a very, very good stationary shooter, someone who found a ton of success shooting as a standstill shooter for Duke. But I think one thing that really opened up a lot of Jon Scheyer's offense this year for the Duke Blue Devils was the ability to use him as a movement shooter, and it really allowed them to maximize Cooper Flagg while also still having Kon Knueppel on the floor offensively. You might think from a spacing perspective that that would have limited Cooper Flagg's success as an on-ball driver of the basketball, but with Knueppel being a movement shooter, running off of so many flare screens from Kon Knueppel this year, and being used in a variety of ways, both as a screener and an off-ball mover, through staggers, through flares, through pins, through pretty much every single action you could imagine, as a Spain screener even at times. Knueppel found a ton of success. I think this is another great example here. First, he comes off of a flare screen, doesn't get the ball, but then Maluach sets a repin. Now, again, this is a missed shot, and you might be saying, okay, well, why are you showing us a missed shot if you're trying to hype up his movement shooting? Guys are going to miss shots, right? You have to think about the actual theory of the kinds of looks that you're generating, and this was a really great example of how you can generate pretty easy good offense. Here he comes off of a stagger screen, and this is another very adept little thing that Kon Knueppel does extremely well. Watch as he goes through this. His defender, who's right on the ACC logo in the middle of the paint here, cheats over the top of Maluach. Knueppel understands that, reads where his defender is, and look at the slight backpedal toward the break, where the break would be in the NBA. finds space that way laterally. He does a very good job understanding where his spacing is going to be as an off-ball movement shooter. And again, the quickness of his release and the footwork to set all of this up is what is so essential. Here he comes off of a flare, and again, by the time his defender here for North Carolina even gets through the off-ball screen from Malawach, he's already rising up into a three-point look, and it's nothing but nylon. He is such an effective shooter and a movement shooter specifically. Again, this is another example here. This one's a little bit more niche, and it's not something that is going to stand out when you're watching the game in a huge way. It's not something the commentators are going to touch on, but this is essential in the NBA. This is just slight relocation as Knueppel's man, number 24, turns his head. Knueppel with a slight relocation to the corner. Again, ever so slightly, but it opens up just enough space for him to get a quality look. Here he is off of a baseline out of bounds. Now doesn't get that one to go, draw his front iron. But the movement skills, the quickness of his release, and the range that he exhibits is what makes him such a promising off-ball scoring prospect in the NBA, because from the very worst case scenario, you're adding extra spacing to your offense. And on the upside, you're running him off of staggers, you're using him off flares, pins, as a screener himself, which we'll see in a couple of clips here in a little bit too. He is just someone who, with that range, with that quickness of his release, is going to be able to stretch NBA defenses, and we all know how valuable three-point shooting is. Here he is setting a screen for Zion James, coming off and shooting that one here. Doesn't get it to go, but ultimately you're trusting the process of someone who is a very talented relocating shooter, which is something we saw from him all year long, whether it be stationary, where he's found a lot of success. That one had a slight little bit of relocation movement. There's just a lot to love here. Look at how he is set up, ready to shoot the basketball. And I think when you're looking at him as a shooting prospect, teams are going to go into games knowing, hey, we've got to run this guy off the three-point line. This is going to be a real problem for our team defense if we let him get open catch-and-shoot looks. And if he's running off of movement actions, you're going to have to meet him on the high side of the backside of screens where, you know, if the center screening for him off the ball, you're going to have to show a body to him. You're going to have to work really hard to get through those screens. And that opens up so many other areas of his game. Specifically, the area I want to talk about is playing off the catch, where he is extremely decisive. And I think the key word again here is decisive. He catches the ball with a plan of attack and then plays off of 2 feet very, very reliably and well after that. Here is another great example. Plays with his body and gets the finish to go with the bump. Now, playing off of 2 feet is a very, very good thing a lot of the time. Now, I think one of the problems with Kon Knueppel as a prospect is his reliance to play off of 2 feet, because he is not a good athlete. You compare him to, you know, the Carter Bryants of the world in this draft class. You compare him to his fellow Duke freshmen like Cooper Flagg, like Kon Malawach. Clearly, those guys are more physically gifted in terms of height, size, weight, wingspan, length, all of those things, but they're also more physically gifted as athletes in terms of long speed, in terms of quick twitch ability, in terms of jumping off of both 1 or 2 feet. Those are some areas where Kon Knueppel is rather lacking. Now, fundamentally, he makes up for it with his decisiveness and playing off of 2 feet, playing out of gathers effectively. And again, really a lot of his offensive game stems from the fact that teams are going to worry about him shooting the ball and shooting a lot of three-pointers. In a lot of these clips, you see him attacking hard closeouts, drawing fouls as a result of that, getting all the way to the rim. Here he comes off of one of those stagger screens and turns it into a curl for an easy bucket. This is another, I think, great example here, this last clip, of him playing off of 2 feet, almost when he doesn't need to. Not this one here, but the very next one. You're going to see it again come back as he comes off of this stagger screen. Watch him as he beats his man to the rim. This should just be a 1-foot finish. He hesitates, pump fakes, because he doesn't really trust his athleticism. And at the college level, that was pretty glaring. Now you can imagine him moving up a level to the NBA and how much more of a drastic problem that could be at times. Now, again, I'm very high on Kon Knueppel as a prospect. I think skill trumps athleticism a lot of the time in the NBA. But it is something that is a little bit of a concern, a little bit of a red flag. And being decisive doesn't always lead to buckets. This is a great example here in this last play. But I think just the understanding to leverage his shooting ability and prowess, where defenders are going to try and challenge him on the three-point line, challenge him extremely high. Again, this is a great example here with him fighting to even get the basketball. Then he takes it, gets the rim, another 1-foot finish there where he didn't get it to go. Does draw a foul though. And at times you see some of the limitations when he's playing off of 2 feet. Does get cut off here against UNC a couple of times, but with him working off of curl action, again, misses a 1-foot finish. That's another, again, glaring problem. There are weaknesses in his game when it comes to playing off the catch because of his physical limitations, but he uses his pivot foot extremely well, does find a ton of success attacking in advantage when he's presented that option against hard closeouts. And in the NBA, he's going to get closeouts just like that all of the time. Players are going to fly by him. Players are going to jump at him in rotation. This is another good example here where he leverages advantage, kicks out to a wide open shooter. Now the shot doesn't go, but if you're looking at the actual kind of process here and his ability to make plays out of advantage, he's very, very adept at that. And that's where I think you see some of that playmaking feel. You're seeing that in some of the clips here now. This is a really great dump off pass for a dunk here to his Duke teammate. I think just a lot of it, there's a ghost screen action with him catching, ripping, and going. Plays off of 2 feet here and ultimately draws contact that I thought should have been a foul. Did not get the call though. And again, you're seeing kind of the benefits of him playing off the catch. Some really great moments and really strong finishes like that one. And also some kind of lowlights where the athletic tools and the inability to consistently finish off of 1 foot has been problematic for him a bit in his lone season with the Duke Blue Devils. But all in all, I think the combination of his three-point shooting and shooting gravity specifically, again, keyword gravity, those things are what's going to open up a lot of the game for him when it comes to playing off the catch, being able to rip and go, get to the free throw line. That's why he shot over 3 free throws a game, because he's such a decisive player. He's able to put defenders in tough situations because of hard closeouts and being able to leverage his body, play into contact a bit, be balanced. There's a ton of contact balance in his game. And I think with all of that in mind, the decisiveness, the willingness to be ready to catch and go, and understanding where his defender is in relation to his offensive positioning, there's so much to love offensively about Kon Knueppel, and it goes deeper than just, hey, how well is he shooting the ball from 3 tonight? It's going to be about how teams close out on him, how teams defend him in off-ball screen action. But there's even more than that offensively for Kon Knueppel, and that's where we get to ball screens and ball screen action specifically, something that Jon Scheyer kind of allowed Kon Knueppel to play into more and more and more as the season went on. Knueppel's volume as a ball handler and a ball screen user went up throughout the course of the season, and for very good reason. He had a ton of success working with Kon Knueppel, who's one of the best screeners in the 2025 NBA draft. And the reason for that is Knueppel's ability to play, again, off of 2 feet, play balanced, misses that one there. Maluach does get the putback to go, but all in all, playing off of the catch, playing out of these actions, you see some of the playmaking feel, playmaking vision that he has. We saw some of that playing off the catch as well. Now, I think this clip specifically here, the one you just saw, is another great example of the physical limitations. And if we compare this to someone like Dylan Harper in this draft, who's really, really quick downhill, has a very good first step, and very good finishing tools as kind of this athlete who can decel, change direction pretty comfortably. Kon Knueppel doesn't have all of those tools. For example, this is a play right here. If this is Dylan Harper film, there's probably a pick and roll split here where he's going to get a paint touch because of that. Look at how Kon Knueppel reacts to the hedge and recover. He gets pushed all the way out to half court nearly. That is, again, a kind of sign that his athletic tools are not up to par. Ends up losing the basketball here. Now does recover and get the ball to his teammate for an assist and one. But the process is what you really need to be evaluating over results with prospects. And there is a lot to love in the process as well. You see his court mapping, court understanding. As a low man takes Kon Knueppel, he finds Mason Gillis for the open three-point look. Here's another example of it here as his man helps out again Mason Gillis with another wide open three-point look. Doesn't get that one to go either. So again, there's no assist, there's no result for him in the box score. But these are really strong reads, really good reads out of pick and roll. And he is cerebral enough to understand that he can play within the pick and roll, but facilitate outside of the pick and roll as well, where, yeah, he might not hit Maluach every single time, but he's smart enough to read where the weak side defenders are, find open shooters, find kick out guys, play out of handoffs quite a bit. Here's an example of that with Maluach for an alley-oop lob dunk. Very, very pretty basketball all in all. Now, one thing too, there's two ways to look at this. This is a good example where he gets blitzed very far away from the rim and hits Maluach immediately on the short roll. this is a positive sign for his understanding of the game. But at times too, when he does get blitzed specifically, he's going to pick up his dribble a little prematurely. And I think that's going to be one area of growth for him, is raising that comfortability level of his handle in ball screen action. This is a great example here, working with Cooper Flagg on a short roll. Flagg gets to the rim and gets fouled. Here's another example of him working in the long roll. This is a beautiful kick out all the way across court to Cooper Flagg for a three-pointer. There is a lot to love when it comes to Knueppel's game. Now, a little bit of a mix-up here with Cooper Flagg, but again, against drop coverage specifically, I do think Kon Knueppel is going to be an effective ball handler in the pick and roll. You look at his comfortability coming off of these actions and then throwing accurate, well-timed either lob passes or cross-court kick passes to the weak side of the floor. He's very, very good against drop coverage specifically. But there are things that I am a little concerned about when he does get blitzed, or either double teamed or just switched out on the perimeter. And I think that's where you're going to see some of the limitation factors compared to another guard in this class like Dylan Harper, where he's just a little bit less comfortable with his handle. Now, if you're planning on using him with big men who roll to the rim hard, you're going to find a good deal of success a lot of the time. Now, not every single time, but Knueppel, with his ability to shoot the ball, he's either going to be a pull-up threat off of those actions. Here's a good example of that specifically, where his gravity is able to hit Cooper Flagg on a short roll once again. Anytime the defender is out of position, specifically the one defending the ball, Knueppel is going to work very good. But this is an example here where he picks up his dribble prematurely. Maluach isn't even turned toward the ball yet, so you can't hit him on the short roll at this point in time. Now, does throw it ultimately, but you don't really generate that advantage out of that kind of look that you'd like to out of a ball screen. Here's an example, though, against drop, where he gets so much depth on his handle. This is a really good lob up to Maluach, who doesn't get the finish to go, unfortunately. Again, against drop here, look at him probe, throws up another nice lob. So against drop coverage, very, very comfortable. When he's faced with a little bit more of an aggressive defense out on the perimeter in ball screens, he's less comfortable. So I think that's going to be a big thing to monitor his rookie season, is his progression in that area. Is he picking up his handle prematurely or not? When he's given space out of the pick and roll, when there's not an immediate defender up on him, he's been extremely successful. You see that in the clips here against Georgia Tech. There's another lob up to Maluach, which ultimately draws a foul. Pretty much picked apart drop coverage this year anytime he faced it. So I am very optimistic about him as a ball handler in the NBA. You think about the prevalence of drop coverage in ball screens with centers involved, it's extremely high. Now, when it comes to small screens, is Knueppel going to be a super effective ball handler? I don't think so. With how switchy the NBA has become, his handle's not at a point right now where he can take advantage of those things. Here he is in roll and replace. Again, another perfect lob. Proctor was the replace guy there. This is an example here of him, again, maybe picking up his dribble just a little prematurely, not on this clip here where he threw the lob, but the very next clip where he's working with Cooper Flagg. And this is where the comfortability working with, a 2-4 screen compared to a 2-5 screen, maybe a little bit less comfortable. As soon as he's met with this hedge, the ball, again, is immediately picked up. Now, he's decisive in these plays, right? He hits Cooper Flagg early. Flagg gets a pretty good look, but if you're looking at the long-term upside and ceiling, the clips where he's actually making reads and coming off the ball screens, keeping his handle alive and really probing the defense, I just think has found a lot more success in those examples. Like this one exactly here, another example against Louisville in drop coverage where he's just more successful because of his comfortability level when he's presented with space and time in pick and roll play, and in ball screen specifically, he's just way more comfortable in that setting when he's not met out on the perimeter immediately. Now, in this video, we talked a lot about his athletic deficiency, something that I do think is a prevalent concern for him moving into his NBA career. And I think that's going to play out on the defensive end of the floor as well. He's going to get hunted. Now, I do think he is smart enough, cerebral enough to understand positioning, time and place, and situation. And those things are all super important. If you understand scouting reports, if you understand what the opposing team is trying to do from a team context standpoint, if you understand what the guy you're guarding is trying to do, what his go-to moves are, what his overall play style efficiencies look like, you can kind of take away certain things even with athletic limitations. So am I worried Kon Knueppel is going to be like a bottom 2% defender in the NBA? No, I think he's smart enough to be a respectable NBA team defender, but come playoff time, will he get hunted? Will teams try to get a matchup where John Morant's going at him one-on-one, or Luka Doncic is taking him off the dribble one-on-one, or if he lands in the East, will it be, hey, bring him up so Trae Young can try and pick on him, or Jason Tatum can go to work on him? Yes, and I think that's pretty well expected. I mean, let's be honest about it. He's a white guard prospect. It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows for him on the defensive end of the floor all the time, but that's okay. He's active defensively. That 2% steal percentage isn't great, but it shows, the willingness to get down and do the dirty work. He's smart enough to put his body and hands in the right positions to make some plays. Now, the 0.6 block percentage that he had is another, I think, negative indicator for his long-term defensive impact and upside. But from an overall prospect profile right now, there's a very good chance he returns top 5 value in this year's draft class. There's players that I really, really do like a lot, like Kamen Malawach, like Cooper Flagg, 2 of his Duke teammates. Dylan Harper, I think, has a far significant upside past what Kon Knueppel could bring you offensively. But in terms of overall fit, overall functionality offensively, his ability to shoot, whether it be stationary or off of movement, his ability to play off the catch decisively, make decisions in the pick and roll, and as a live ball handler, those things are all very, very promising to his upside in the NBA as a very good starting level contributor for a good playoff team. A team that I really want to take him, honestly, is the San Antonio Spurs. I think if you look at their roster construction around Wembanyama and around De'Aaron Fox, Kon Knueppel is such a smooth, easy fit into their offensive context, giving them a very good off-ball player, someone who can play off the catch with ease and shoot the ball very, very well off of Victor Wembanyama. That's one team that I really think would use him well, utilize him effectively and in a great way. The Houston Rockets also have a lottery pick. I'm not sure they're going to be in range really to draft Kon Knueppel. We'll see what happens with the actual draft lottery. But Kon Knueppel, a player who probably won't get drafted in the top 5 because of upside and all the athletic concerns, there's a really good chance he brings top 5 value, just given the fact that he is such an effective team player, someone who understands how to win. I think, you see that in his net rating this year for Duke, who was a really great teammate all the way to the Final Four, with their 3 best players honestly being freshmen. It's a really impressive run that team had, and Kon Knueppel was right at the center of it for them all tournament long and honestly all season long. The Blue Devils were great. Kon Knueppel is great at basketball. He's going to be a very good NBA player in my opinion, and someone who warrants a top 6, top 7 selection in the 2025 NBA draft. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more content, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.